In the vast ocean of human longing, there exists a common pattern. People chase what they lack, beg for what they think they need, and become needy for what they fear losing. Yet, what if all of this struggle was merely an illusion? What if the act of chasing was, in fact, the very thing pushing away what you desire? The Zen proverb states, "The tighter you grasp, the more sand slips through your fingers." This reveals a fundamental truth. Grasping creates suffering. What you desire cannot be forced, and what you force often eludes you. True power does not lie in pursuit, it lies in presence. The moment you stop begging for attention, stop chasing people, and stop acting out of desperation, the entire dynamic shifts. But how? If you do not chase, if you do not beg, if you do not plead, what remains? One thing: mastery of self. When you master yourself, everything around you moves in harmony. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of begging, you command respect. Instead of neediness, you embody completeness. This is the paradox. By letting go, you gain. Let us step into a story that reveals the secret to reversing the tide without force, struggle, or desperation. There was once a man who spent his life running after things: relationships, friendships, opportunities, and status. Every time he set his heart on something, he pursued it with all his might. Yet the harder he tried, the more things seemed to slip away. When he liked someone, he showed overwhelming devotion, only to be met with distance. When he wanted success, he exhausted himself in effort, only to find doors closing before him. It seemed as if life was playing a cruel trick. Whenever he wanted something badly, it refused him. Frustrated, he sought the wisdom of an old teacher who lived in solitude. The man traveled a great distance and finally found the teacher sitting in silence by a flowing stream. "I have come for guidance," the man said. The teacher simply smiled and pointed at the stream. "Tell me, what do you see?" "Water flowing endlessly," the man replied. "And if you try to grasp it with your hands?" "It slips away," he admitted. The teacher nodded. "The more you try to possess it, the less you have. But if you simply let it flow, you can enjoy its presence." The man frowned. "Are you saying I should not pursue what I want?" The teacher chuckled. "I am saying chasing is different from attracting. The wind cannot be caught, but it will come to you if you stand still. The question is not how to chase, but how to become someone to whom things naturally come." The man sat in deep thought. He watched the stream for hours, contemplating the truth in the teacher's words. He began to notice something else. The stream never stopped moving, yet it did not struggle. It did not force its way, yet it found its path effortlessly. The river had no need to demand where it should go. It simply followed its course, adapting to the obstacles in its way. It was a powerful realization. What if life was meant to flow like the river without resistance? The man reflected on the teacher's words and decided to stop chasing. He let go of his exhausting pursuit of people, success, and validation. Instead, he focused on himself. He practiced mindfulness, deepened his understanding of life, and found fulfillment in his own company. He cultivated his mind, his health, and his peace. He became so centered that he no longer needed external validation. And then something strange happened. The people who once ignored him began to notice him. The opportunities that once evaded him seemed to flow effortlessly into his life. He was no longer chasing, yet things were now drawn to him. Why? Because when you do not need, you become valuable. People sense desperation and run from it. But when you radiate completeness, they are drawn to you. His transformation was slow but profound. He became more patient. He stopped reacting out of fear and started responding with wisdom. He developed a deep trust in the natural flow of life, understanding that everything comes in its own time. He no longer viewed delays or setbacks as obstacles, but rather as redirections. He embraced solitude as a time of self-discovery instead of loneliness. The man had found peace within himself. As days passed, he discovered newfound clarity. He realized that his value was never dependent on external validation. It was rooted in his own sense of self-worth. He cultivated gratitude for the present moment and began to see abundance where he once saw lack. His actions were no longer dictated by desperation, but by calm assurance. His relationships flourished, his work thrived, and his mind became unshaken by temporary setbacks. He understood that letting go did not mean giving up, but rather allowing life to flow in its natural course. As he walked through the village, he noticed how people gravitated toward him. Not because he sought their attention, but because he had become a beacon of calm and confidence. He no longer had to prove himself, nor did he feel the need to chase approval. Everything he once desired seemed to come effortlessly, not through struggle, but through alignment with his inner truth. He had mastered the art of allowing rather than forcing. One evening, he sat by the same stream where he had once sought wisdom. He watched the water flow, and for the first time, he truly understood. The stream never questioned its path, nor did it rush or resist. It simply moved forward, allowing the natural flow of existence to guide its way. He too had become like the water, fluid, unburdened, and free. In that moment, he smiled, knowing he had found the greatest treasure of all, peace within himself. One day, the teacher asked the man to stand by a still lake. "Throw a stone into the water," the teacher instructed. The man did, and ripples spread across the surface. "What do you see?" the teacher asked. "Ripples expanding outward," the man replied. The teacher smiled. "When you chase, you disturb the water. When you are still, the lake reflects perfectly. The world works the same way. Become still, and it will reflect back what you are." The man realized that his previous failures were not due to a lack of effort, but due to misplaced energy. He was acting from fear, insecurity, and attachment. But now, by mastering himself, he became a magnet. He no longer begged for love, it came effortlessly. He no longer chased success, it unfolded naturally. He no longer sought validation, he became a source of confidence. The still lake before him mirrored the peace within. As he gazed at his reflection, he noticed how undisturbed the water was. It was as if nature itself was confirming his transformation. The teacher, seeing the depth of understanding in his student's eyes, spoke again. "The world is like this lake. If you disturb it with restless thoughts and desperate actions, it will never be calm. But when you become still, the clarity of life reveals itself to you." For the first time, the man truly understood the power of stillness, not as inaction, but as the ability to exist without resistance. He spent hours by the lake, watching the gentle ripples fade into stillness. He realized that his entire journey had been about finding this peace. Everything he had chased before, success, love, validation, was meaningless without inner tranquility. He smiled, feeling lighter than ever before. Days turned into weeks, and the man continued to cultivate this newfound wisdom. When people approached him, they felt an air of calm, an unshakable presence that needed no validation. His interactions became effortless, his decisions clearer, his relationships more profound. He had not only learned to let go, but he had embodied the art of living with flow and grace. One morning, as he walked through the village, a young seeker approached him and asked, "How can I find peace? How can I attract what I desire?" The man smiled, now understanding the cycle of wisdom. He gestured towards the still lake in the distance and said, "Come, let me show you." And so the lesson continued, as wisdom was passed from one seeker to another, like the endless ripples on the water, forever expanding into eternity. One day, a person who once ignored him returned. This person had once taken his kindness for granted, overlooked his efforts, and walked away as if he were insignificant. Now they stood before him, eager to reconnect. The man smiled, but he felt no need to chase or cling. He had learned that true power is not in forcing people to stay, but in giving them the freedom to leave. And in that moment, he understood the lesson completely. The teacher had once said, "The highest form of power is not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself." The moment you stop seeking, stop forcing, and stop chasing, you become the kind of person who does not need to ask for anything, because everything comes naturally. The old acquaintance shifted uncomfortably, sensing the change in the man's energy. There was a calm, unwavering confidence about him now, a presence that commanded respect without demanding it. "You seem different," the acquaintance finally said, eyes searching for the familiar desperation that once clung to him. But it was no longer there. "I have changed," the man replied simply, his voice steady, "not by adding anything to myself, but by letting go." The acquaintance hesitated before speaking again. I realize now that I took you for granted. I never truly saw your worth until you stopped seeking validation. The man nodded, understanding. That's the nature of things. When we are too available, we are often overlooked. When we chase, people run. But when we become whole on our own, the world takes notice. The acquaintance sighed. I wish I had valued you more back then. Do you think we can rebuild what was lost? The man smiled, but there was no attachment in his expression. We can always build something new, but I do not cling to the past. If our paths align, we will meet again naturally. If not, I wish you well. For the first time, the acquaintance saw the true meaning of strength, not in dominance, not in control, but in effortless detachment. The man did not need anyone to validate him anymore. He was whole, and that made him powerful. Days passed, and the man continued to live in alignment with his newfound wisdom. People who once dismissed him now sought his company. Opportunities that once seemed elusive now flowed freely. But he no longer grasped at them. He received, but he was not dependent. He loved, but he did not cling. He walked his path with grace, allowing life to unfold as it would, without resistance. One day, a stranger approached him in the marketplace. I've heard of you, the stranger said. People say you have a rare sense of peace about you. They say things just seem to come to you without effort. How do you do it? The man chuckled. I stopped chasing. I stopped needing. I stopped fearing loss. And in that space, life began to flow effortlessly. The stranger pondered his words. But what if I want to change my life? What if I want to attract success, love, and happiness? The man gestured toward a nearby tree. Do you see that tree? It does not chase the birds, yet they come to rest on its branches. It does not beg for the sun, yet it receives light and warmth. It does not struggle to grow. It simply follows its nature, and in doing so, it thrives. Be like the tree. Find your roots, stand firm, and all that is meant for you will find its way to you. The stranger stood in silence, absorbing the wisdom. Finally, he nodded, a spark of understanding in his eyes. Thank you. I see it now. The man smiled, knowing that another soul had begun their journey toward true freedom. And as he watched the stranger walk away, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not because he had sought it, but because it had come naturally, just as all things do when we learn to let go. The essence of Zen and Buddhist philosophy teaches us that suffering is born from attachment. The man in the story represents every one of us who has, at some point, felt the sting of rejection, the pain of unreciprocated love, or the frustration of unattained desires. His transformation was not through force, but through wisdom. Let us reflect deeply on these lessons. As the man continued his journey, he observed people from all walks of life undergoing their own transformations. Some found peace through meditation, sitting quietly by rivers, watching the water flow as they released their worries. Others discovered joy in simple acts, tending to gardens, caring for animals, or creating art without expectation of recognition. Each person who truly let go of their desperate need for control began to flourish in ways they had never imagined. There was a woman who had spent years seeking love, only to find heartbreak at every turn. One day she chose to stop searching and instead focused on loving herself. She took up painting, something she had once abandoned in her pursuit of relationships. As she poured her heart into her work, she found happiness in the colors, the strokes, the moments of quiet creation. And then, unexpectedly, love found her, not because she had chased it, but because she had become whole. A man once obsessed with financial success had exhausted himself in the pursuit of wealth. Yet no matter how much he earned, contentment remained elusive. One evening he sat in stillness and asked himself, "What is it I truly seek?" The answer was peace. He gradually shifted his focus from accumulation to contribution, using his resources to help others. In doing so, he discovered a deeper form of wealth, one that filled his soul rather than his pockets. The illusion of control teaches us that the more we chase, the more things slip away. Desperation creates resistance, while presence creates attraction. The power of non-attachment reveals that confidence is more attractive than neediness. And instead of seeking external validation, we should focus on becoming whole. The paradox of letting go reminds us that by releasing our grip, we create space for better things to come. When we no longer grasp, we gain. Mastering oneself is the ultimate key. Rather than focusing outward, turn inward, for true success comes from within. And finally, living as if you have already won changes everything. Carrying yourself with confidence and embodying self-sufficiency attracts all that you need. Do not beg, do not chase, do not be needy, simply be. Master yourself, and you will watch in amazement as life reverses before your eyes. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this lesson, consider subscribing to Buddhist Wisdom Daily for more insights. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video.